Speaking of working on stuff you're supposed to work on.
That's better. So
Okay.
the problem that Jason proposes, or the title is Show Feedback Messages in Editable Data Grid. Just that, but we can be here for a couple of hours. So any advice on how best to display?
Okay, Jason. Hi, buddy. We tried to help you around feedback messages and interactions within a data table or a data grid. What Jason's wondering about is for a use case where people are editing field, what's the best way to show success, error, etc. within that kind of experience where you type in, you tab out, or your mouse exits the input, the system validates or looks to see if what you typed in was correct, and then you get some info back. So the problem statement that we came up with is, as an enterprise software user, I want to be reassured that my inputs are accurate so that I can execute my job properly. We are assuming that this is based with like UI inputs rather than like a pure Excel. So we're kind of treating it like a form inside a table. Each input needs validation or needs to be represented. So there's probably a lot of keyboard use that's happening. Performance also needs to be really snappy as well. And then we just mapped out the states that we'll need to represent. We have an empty state, a filled state, state that's processing or loading, the state where everything went well and it's correct, and then the error state or the incorrect state with a suggestion. We basically have really localized feedback happening within the input, and that's really important in this case because we are doing a bunch of very localized actions. Telling the user that the system is working and it's doing something within the input itself is really important to reassure them that entries aren't being ignored. So we talked a little bit about the error state when things go wrong, putting everything into a tooltip, but that can cause some yucky problems like blocking information up and down. And you always have to like click on it or hover on it in order to see it. Because of this focus that we have on efficiency, that's not going to quite work for us. The trade-off is we're going to have some communication happening underneath the input, and we will have to get a tooltip involved at some point potentially, but it's not the default. So we put the whole thing into an actual UI. We have the state being represented on the input itself with an icon, as well as some details on what went wrong and why, and potentially how you could fix it. We introduced a drawer component in here, especially in the cases where you have more complexity actually happening with the error. So like maybe you need to look up something and verify it's true and blah, blah, blah in order to input the thing correctly. So anything to add?
It's kind of good. I hope Jason will love it. We have a lot of problems around that table.
So many problems. Honestly, it's as vast as the data in the world itself.